We are looking at using opposite words. When we talk about opposite words, we mean words that are the reverse, or, as the name suggests, opposite, things that go the other way. So we often talk about direction. Maybe one person is going that way and the other person is going that way. We can say they are going in opposite directions. The same thing is true with English words. There are words that can go one way, and of course there are words that express the opposite meaning. We will look at some of them. I'm sure you can think of quite a few as well by yourself. I think so. So on the live chat today, we have lots of people joining in. Thank you for spending your Saturday with me. It's ever so nice to see you here. For every defining word, there is quite often an opposite. So quite often, very often, even that word has an opposite. For example, the opposite of often is seldom. Opposite of often is seldom. Something that happens often and something that happens seldom. Almost never. So there's straight away a very good example of opposite words. An opposite word is often referred to as an antonym. An antonym is an opposite. It is the opposite. So when we say anti, we are literally saying opposite, an opposite word. Of course, if a word has a similar meaning, we can call it a synonym. The word antonym derives from Greek and literally means against, name. So you are having an anti-name. It is against that thing. Up becomes down. Up and down are antonyms. They are opposites. So that is the reason why we express it in that particular way. Common opposite words will often express either a positive or a negative meaning. This is true. Common opposite words. So you can have words that mean something positive and something that means something negative. Quite often there are words that can take you in a good direction or a bad direction, depending on what it is you are trying to express. And that is why opposite words are quite interesting when we talk about them. Not all opposite words are necessarily good or bad. Their definitions depend on the situation. So as I just said, a word that you want to use to express something positive, then of course you will use a positive word. Sometimes you might have to go for the opposite of that positive word and use a negative word instead. As we will see later, it is also possible to use the way you say something to express opposites. As I just said, down is the opposite of up, but it is not always used as a negative opposite. So there are ways of using those words in sentences, but they are not necessarily bad. There is a fly buzzing around, annoying me. That is a very negative thing. So here are some examples. For example, you might go down to the shops. So that's not necessarily a negative thing, even though we can use it as a negative thing. We often see down as being negative. But you can also use it to say that you are going in a certain direction. You might go down to the shops. So you go from one place to another. You go down the road. You go down to the shops. You might also trip up and fall. So quite often, up is used positively. However, in this particular sentence, the one you can see at the bottom, it is being used negatively. You trip up. You are losing control of yourself. You trip up. So quite often we can use words that appear negative or are often used negatively, and we can use them in a positive way. And then, of course, there are other ways of using those two words. You might feel down and moody. So you might often find the word down is used more in a negative way. You might feel down and moody. You might pick up your dog. You pick up your dog. You are collecting your dog. Maybe you have to go to the vets because your dog is having something done. Maybe your male dog is having something cut off. Oh, it can happen. In fact, it does happen. You might pick up your dog from the vets. You might pick up your dog from the ground because you want to carry your dog. So it is possible to use down and up quite often. Sit and stand, for example, are opposites, but both express positive and negative meanings in a sentence. So we might use the word sit and stand negatively and positively. So once again, it does depend on what the situation is. So opposite words do not always reflect a positive or negative meaning in the same way. That is to say, opposite words can sometimes change their meaning from positive to negative, and the other way round. Down can be direction, as can up. Down and up. So to be honest with you, neither of those things are necessarily positive or negative. However, they are still opposites. You might move down. You might push down. You might sit down. You can move up. You can push up. You can sit up. You can stand up, like I do. I stand up all the time now. I used to have a chair here in the studio, but these days I often stand up. In fact, that's what I'm doing now. I always present my live streams standing up. So I am standing right now on my feet. Another example is over and under. Over, under. They are opposites and can both be used either positively or negatively. We can look at an example. To overspend is negative. So over, in that particular sense, means you've done something too much. You overspend. You have spent too much money. So if a person overspends, it means they spend too much money. Maybe they spend all of their money on lots of useless things. Or maybe if you have a budget, a certain amount of money, you spend too much money. You go over that amount. You overspend. Oh, this fly is going to really annoy me. I hate it when a fly is buzzing around me in the studio. It is so distracting. And then, of course, you can get over something. To get over something means to recover. Maybe you have an illness, you are ill, unwell, but you get over that particular thing. So in that sense, it is positive. We are saying that we have recovered. Maybe you have had a shock, something that has shocked you. Eventually, you will recover. You will get over that particular thing. You recover. And then we have uses of under. To underachieve is negative. A person who underachieves is a person who doesn't do as well as they could or should. You underachieve. It is negative. And then, of course, we have the opposite of what we mentioned a few moments ago. You can underspend. So that means you do not go over the limit. You stay under the limit of the amount of money you can spend. You underspend. Sometimes we have to underspend because we have no choice. Yes. It is possible for the context of a word or its opposite to change from positive to negative. It is very possible for that to happen, and it can happen. Of course, we can alter the emotion of a word by adding or changing the sound or the intonation. So this, for me, is a very interesting part of learning English. It is a part of learning English that is fascinating, and that is when we are speaking, when we are talking. Sometimes we can express words by using certain sounds, and quite often the sound that we use can show whether or not that word is being used positively or negatively. Even if the word is positive or negative, we can sometimes use intonation, the way we speak. Here's a good example. 2 sentences. Oh, great! Oh, great! Or, oh, great! Oh, great! Oh, great! Oh, great! So the word great is often seen as positive. However, in those sentences, the intonation of my voice is leading you to understand that it might not be necessarily positive. Oh, great! Oh, great! Maybe you go out of your house in the morning and you discover that your car has a flat tyre and you are late for work. You might say, oh, great!